Okay, I'm live. Hello everyone. My name is Marcy and I am the designer for Imagine. And essentially today I'm just testing out YouTube Live. I've never done a YouTube Live. I've done some Facebook Live videos and I'm here in the office this evening just giving YouTube a chance. So today I'm going to be reviewing brown inks. This idea came to me because last month in October I did a review of our black inks. Our black ink is our best seller, and guess what? Brown ink is our next best seller. So I'm just going to, I have my phone on a tripod, but I'm going to tilt the tripod down just so you guys can see my canvas here for a second. And essentially, you can see here are my brown ink color swatches in a lot of the Tsukaneko ink brands. If you guys aren't familiar with Imagine, if you've never heard of us before, Imagine Crafts or Imagine is the US distributor for Tsukaneko inks. The Tsukaneko is a really fabulous ink pad brand line that sells to the arts and crafts community. So really long established, ink pad brands. So in today's video, I'm going to be swatching out brown or natural color inks in various ink brands. I'm just going to be doing a live demo for you guys. It's really important to do, before I say that, and also in the links below, I'm going to edit this video after I get done with talk. I'm going to provide a link for a free download for Thanksgiving crafts. Since Thanksgiving color palettes kind of remind you of those like earthy tones and just kind of like more natural tones. I was looking on Pinterest and seeing like table decor that uses a lot of the craft color paper and just kind of natural elements like sage and plant life and things like that. So I decided to go over the brown inks or the natural color inks to kind of give you guys a sense of the different tones and qualities of these inks, and that way if you were interested in picking up an ink for Thanksgiving, you could watch this video, get some guidance, and I'll link all the inks below in the description below, and then you guys can purchase. And all of these inks are available on our website. So let's get started. I'm going to tilt you guys down and bring you down to the art canvas, so forgive me for being so in your face here for a second. And here we go. Okay, so these I did yesterday and they're fully dry, and I will be using them as talking points. But let's go ahead and get started with Momento. Memento is a dye ink. This is what it looks like. I'm going to just start with Rich Cocoa. And this swatching set is actually a stamp set from Waffle Flower Crafts. And I'll just show you the packaging so you'll recognize the brand. Waffle Flower, that's their brand. And this little ink, this stamp came from this stamp set. It's that little square there. And they perfectly fit into these swatching sets. Sorry, that looks clear. This is their swatching set, their color swatch combos. And hello, Andre for joining. This swatch set from Waffle Flower is absolutely my favorite. I want to see, I don't know if I could, I have two screens. I have a computer screen and I can see you guys chiming in on my phone. I'm going to try to get it to where I can see your guys' comments. Forgive me for that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining, and please chime in. Okay, so let's get started with Momento in Rich Cocoa. like to stamp Momento twice because it just gets good coverage that way. This is a dye-based water-based dye ink. Look at that. Nice dark color. Really goes with the word rich. So for a brown, in my opinion, a natural color brown, that's a pretty dark color. Okay, the next color on the list is Espresso Truffle, and I went ahead and went with the Dewdrop in this brand. It does come in the full-size ink pad, but I feel that the Dewdrop is just, it's kind of just handy. I had it handy anyway. Okay, kind of missed the middle bar there, but that's okay. And like I said, I like to go twice on these Momento inks, and wow, look at that. So just as in this short little time, that top one has dried a little bit and you can see it's lightened up, and then look at how much nicer or darker that Espresso Truffle is for a dark brown. Really interesting. Okay. So when I was picking these out, I was debating on what in the Momento line would still qualify as a brown, and I was going through the color swatches and I picked these two colors. This is Peanut Brittle and this is Toffee Crunch. And for the peanut brittle, not peanut butter, peanut brittle, that's kind of hard to say. I thought it was too orangey, so I went with this one, Toffee Crunch. And I'm just going to go one more time. Some inks, it's not bad you stamp twice because sometimes it just needs time to soak into the paper. And I get a little impatient, so I just want to see like the full coverage like right then. And look at that. Really nice. And I was right about that still qualifying as a brown. It's a really nice kind of soft earth tone brown. Okay, so this is the Momento brand. Just keep those there in sight for you for a little bit. I'm going to move on to Pigment Inks. And so the first on my list here is Versacolor in Pinecone. And let's give that a look, see what that one looks like. For those of you who do not know, Versacolor has a new case, and let's just go twice on that one. Oh my God, look at that. That is nice. God, that's nice. That's like super rich. Versacolor has a new case, and this is what it looks like. It actually is very similar to the Momento case. It's just got the clear lid. This is a big distinction between a dye ink and a pigment ink, is that your dye inks are going to have this white case, or opaque case, and your pigment inks are going to have a clear case. So that's just like a really quick eyeball way to see the difference. And also, when you're looking at the difference between, you know, we get this question like, oh, what's the difference between a dye ink and pigment ink? One of the deceiving things about a dye ink is that when you look at the ink pad, it may not look like the color that actually comes out. See, that looks a lot darker than that color right there. Whereas like this is true to color. So what you see is what you get with a pigment ink, and with a dye ink, because it's kind of in that ink pad and kind of just different looking, it may come out different. So like here's like a an example. Here's a green one, right? And that ink pad looks dark, but this is actually a really light color. Let me demo that really quick for you. Like, that's a light color green where the ink pad looks kind of dark. Just a little side note. I don't want to digress too much on that point. And so Andre asked, does the Versacolor dry lighter? I would say no. I think it dries the way it looks. And so that's another distinction, is that this kind of lightened up a little bit, and that's gonna just stay that color. So there you go. Great question. Thank you for asking that. Okay, so moving on to Versacolor in brown, and as you can see, this Versacolor is in the classic Versacolor case. Tsukaneko is moving on from this hinge case, hinge lid design, and all new Versacolors are going to come in this one. But this is still in the old, I want to say old, you don't want to, like, it sounds like a negative word, but this is in the old case. This is in the original case design. And so this is brown. And already, like, that is just a different color. Next to that Pinecone, it just looks wildly different. It's more of like that kind of brick red brown. And you can just kind of see like that tone. It's a nice tonal difference there. Which, as I was putting the, you know, the ideas for this video together, I was like, oh, let's see what the different brown inks look like. And I was pretty fascinated with how different they turned out. So I just was really excited to share that with you guys. So the next one on my list is Momento Lux, and this is a pigment ink. This is named after, it's kind of modeled after the Momento dye ink brand. It's a pigment ink brand, and this is the same color, rich cocoa. But let's see how it turns out. This is how it looks in the pigment form. This ink pad is different from most of the other ink pads in the Tsukaneko brand family, like all of the Tsukaneko brands. You have to be careful with this ink pad because it's a squishier ink pad, and it's just like a spongier ink pad. And when you press down, you don't want to press down too hard because you'll just push ink into like the recesses of your stamp, especially if you're using like a detailed stamp. So you want to, you know, use this lightly. This particular ink will go on fabric, and it will, it's really labeled a mixed media ink. It'll go on anything, but it will go on fabric, which maybe a lot of people don't know, but it's very similar to the fabric ink brands. So, like I was saying, you have to be careful how you press into this ink pad. The swatch there collected a little bit more ink on that corner. But I think that turned out pretty nice. It does look a little different than the dye ink. A little denser, it looks like. Okay. So, next on the list, we're going to jump from, so this was the dye inks, the pigment inks, and now we're going to get into Stazon solvent inks. So let's put these aside and bring out Stazon. Now with Stazon, I was delighted and actually kind of like, oh my god, there's so many like natural color inks in Stazon. So we have a lot to choose from here. Put these mementos aside. So we have 4 inks in Stazon that are natural colors, brown colors. And this is exciting because if you're a mixed media artist, Stazon is going to be your brand. If you like watercoloring, Stazon's going to be your brand. So with Stazon, let's start with Timber Brown. This is one of our best sellers. It's really great ink. And I've removed the little protective cover. It comes in all the Stazon inks. I have to remember, like, okay, here's some tips on Stazon. This is Stazon Cleaner. Forgive me for how messy it is. It does not look like this normally. I worked on the black inks. If you go over to our Facebook page and look at last month's live video, I did a video on black inks and my hands got all messy with black ink, so every time I touched this thing it just collected. I'm going to, with this swatching, you see how kind of grungy that looks, but I want to show you how clear it comes out. Even though it looks really dirty, it's really nice. Like, that's a little, I think that looks really clean. Maybe it's showing up weird on the camera, but essentially that's clean. And when you're using Stazon, you want to have the stamp cleaner handy immediately, because really what's going to happen is that as soon as you stamp with it, it's going to start drying on your stamp. And you want to be very conscious and treat your stamps differently when you're using Stazon. I think when I'm using other ink brands and I get used to just kind of stamping, I forget to clean it off right away. And so when I use Stazon, I try to remember, like, clean it right now. So please do that. And what I like to do is use a paper towel, wet one side of the paper towel with the stamp cleaner, and use the dry side to dry it all off, and just to kind of test if I'm actually getting it all off, especially with a swatching video or swatching session. You want to make sure you're cleaning your stamp right away, and you want to make sure it's kind of drying and getting all that ink off, so that you don't how do you say it, like re-ink your next stamp. This happens with Stazon. What's interesting about Stazon is because it's a solvent ink, the solvent in it will agitate the ink that you just put down. So Stazon is a tricky ink in that way. Really beautiful ink, but it has some different behavior than other ink brands. So, not to freak you out too much, but just to warn you that if you are working with Stazon, you have to treat it differently. So, let's see. Timber Brown. Nice. Nice, dark, rich color. Whoa, that's really nice. So clean the stamp right away, dry it right away. Okay. I'm going to keep moving just to speed up the time here, and we'll compare at the end with the Stazons. Okay, the next one is Saddle Brown. I was really shocked and to see like how lovely this color was. I really enjoy this color. Oh, gotta keep moving. I'm so tempted to show you that up close. Okay, the next color is going to be Spiced Chai. So that was Saddle Brown. Next color is Spiced Chai, and these are in the middies. And the last one is, oh, actually it's not the last one. There's one more to add to this. I haven't pulled it over onto the screen yet, or into the artboard. Gosh, it turns out so different. It's almost like a gray brown. Okay, and so the one I haven't pulled over yet is the Stazon Pigment Ink. I'm going to demo that for you too. Okay, I can't wait to show you these guys up close. Okay, so look at these Stazon colors. Oh my god! So different. So that's a Timber Brown. The Saddle Brown I love. I feel like it's got like this nice amber quality, which still, I think it classifies still as a brown, but it just, if you like mixed media crafts and you want to like do something cool, Stazon is a ink that will go on glass. You could take a mason jar and tint it with this, and that would be incredible. These two sets are the two middies. I was actually surprised. I actually like the Spice Chai, not the best, because I do really like the Saddle Brown, but I feel like this one is the closest to like a true idea of brown. Like, this is what I think brown is, natural color brown. This one turned out a little gray for me. And then Stazon Pigment in chocolate brown, I actually think is named perfectly. It actually looks like milk chocolate. So really great. Really nice spread of natural colors there. Okay, so I'm gonna jump from Stazon and go to a completely different brand, and it's going to be Versamagic. And the reason why I wanted to throw Versamagic in there is because Versamagic to me gets kind of, it's a chalk ink, so it kind of gets labeled as like a pastel-y kind of ink. But I wanted to show you guys this gingerbread swatch because I think it actually perfectly reminds me of gingerbread. And just putting it down on the stamp is like, oh my god, it just looks different immediately. And look at that. I mean, one of the great things about pigment inks is that they just go down and you don't have to sit there and stamp and stamp and stamp them. They're just so rich. But look at that. That's a perfect gingerbread color. I love it. Okay, so next we're going to move away from, we're moving on from Versamagic, and we're going to jump into Versafine. So this is the original Versafine ink in vintage sepia. And if you've noticed in the past year, the Versafine case has changed. That is on purpose. Versafine comes in the same like hinged case as Versacolor, and it is no longer going to be in the hinged case. So that is a permanent change for that brand. Very nice, very, very lovely. Just beautiful ink, the way that stamps. So this is the original Versafine. Versafine Clair has 3 brown inks. Look at those. Boom. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna be fun to stamp all these next to each other just to give it a go. And so I'm going to, from Vintage Sepia, we're going to go into Pinecone. So let's just do it that way. Or actually, let's play a little musical chairs here. This is the order we'll be stamping these in, just to be consistent. So from Vintage Sepia, we're going to be going to Pinecone. I particularly think that Versafine is one of the best stamping inks because it just, as soon as you use it, you're just, it's done. You don't really have to keep stamping with it. That's pretty nice. That's really a rich brown, dark brown is the Pinecone. The next one is Acorn. And this one kind of reminds me of the Versacolor brown. It has that like kind of brick red tone to it. But it totally gets darker on the second stamp, like a little bit. It's much darker than Versacolor brown. Okay, and so the last one, I just kind of sketched out a little light quadrant there just to add, because I actually think this one's a little too dark to be classified as a brown, the Fallen Leaves. And when I first stamped with it, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. It looks like mostly like a dark gray tinted with a tint, a very subtle tint of brown. And so this is what I mean by that. I'm just gonna stamp it once so you can just see how dark it is. Let's like take a close look at those. So these are the Versafine colors. Kind of interesting. So this last one is the Fallen Leaves, and I feel like it's, I don't know, it just kind of goes out of range a little bit to me. Like, it looks gray. It doesn't look brown. So that's an interesting aspect. Okay, so these are all stamped inks, and I'm going to finish up with doing a set of liquid walnut inks and also shimmer inks. So these will be the last set in this demonstration. And Imagine has the brand of walnut ink. It's really nice. It comes in a spray, but I never use a spray. I feel like spray to me is messy. I always just screw the lid off of these because it is a liquid and you can just take the lid off and use it however you want because it's just a liquid. So that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I always do with our spray inks. I use them. I use the shimmer in the shimmer inks. I use the spray, but with the walnut inks, I just screw the lid off and just dip my brush in there like this. And I want to try to create a little bit of a gradient so you guys can see how this behaves, because with liquid inks it is almost like you're painting, right? Like you can, so if you guys go onto Instagram and do the hashtag walnut ink, oh, I'm seeing some comments on the hinge lid, sorry, but if you go onto Instagram and you hashtag walnut ink, you'll see a variety of artists. Like I would see that these inks are certainly ink pads, a stamping community, card making community, but the walnut ink is kind of like its own huge artist community, and people use walnut ink in a variety of ways. I'm just going to do another layer on the corner here. And so it's amazing all the stuff you'll find on Instagram with that hashtag. And I say that because I'm talking about the spray bottle and I'm talking about using it with a brush, and essentially most people use walnut ink with a brush. And people use it for calligraphy, they use it for all sorts of like character drawings or doing portraits and all sorts of things. With this brand, we use the walnut material as a base, but the walnut ink that we carry, we have multiple swatches. I just picked 2 additional swatches so that you could see how the colors change. And the next one will be Terra Cotta. So this is still the walnut ink base, but we add other pigments to it to give it to flip the color a little bit. So let's look at that one. Let me make sure my brush is clean. I think it is. Maybe it's not though. Yeah, it's pretty clean. I went to a Creativation a couple of years ago and learned from a vendor there how to treat brushes. She kind of had a gripe about how people never clean their brushes right, and that just really opened my eyes to taking better care of my brushes. So definitely a different color on this Terra Cotta, and I'm going to give it another little layer there to give it some more intensity. Really beautiful. Okay, and the last one for walnut ink is Java. So thanks guys for hanging in there with me. I didn't really announce this video, I just kind of sprung it on you guys, so sorry about that. I announced a Facebook Live video. So I find the walnut ink and Java to be just, I mean, that looks like a black ink to me. That's nuts. So Java is super dark. If you guys want like a nice dark walnut ink, this is Java. And that's in our smaller spray. I like the smaller spray bottle. It's just kind of elegant looking. Kind of like it feels like a makeup product, almost like a chapstick or a perfume bottle or something. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a close look of that. Those are the walnut inks. Oh, there I am. No, there I am. So you can kind of see how you could use that in a variety of ways. You could use it thinly and create just a little bit, or you could double it over and create more of an intense ink there. Java, I think, is just going to be intense, so be careful with Java. Okay, so moving on to the Shimmer Inks. I'm sorry, I have my swatches kind of invading my art space here. This was my initial test run on these, on this idea of swatching out brown inks, and essentially I wanted to keep them handy to talk and compare, because when these are still kind of wet, they look a certain way, but when they're fully dry, you really know what's going on, and these are all fully dry. And you'll see that here in a minute, because I'm going to demonstrate that with one of the Shimmer Inks. So this is the last set. This is, let's talk about Shimmer Inks. Our primary Shimmer Ink is Delicata, and Delicata comes in about 12 colors, and this is dark brown shimmer. So let's see what that looks like. I have another one here to compare it to. Now this ink pad might be drying out. I'm going to press down a little bit more on it. This ink pad is a pretty nice firm ink pad. I'm going to go one more time. This actually might be drying out. But there's an issue with shimmer. If you look, the shimmer, you can see that on the stamp. Shimmer is a larger particle than the ink particles, and so you want to kind of stamp lightly when you're using shimmer, because the shimmer might stay on the stamp and not go down into the paper. And so I advise using something like a stamping tool like Misty, and kind of try to do a light touch. Make sure you are, make sure you are kind of inking up your stamp kind of lightly so that you're not pressing the shimmer away from the stamp too much. You kind of want to put it on there lightly so that it will remain lightly on the surface of the stamp and then go down onto the paper well. So I'm going to try that one more time. I'm just going to like tap, tap, tap. Try to transfer that shimmer over lightly. So you can kind of see that is what I mean there. Shimmer is kind of hard to get across on camera, so I'm really glad you guys are staying with me on that. So when it comes to shimmer, I think this dark brown is kind of elusive because it is a dark ink. And so the way that dark inks kind of work with shimmer is that you're going to have like your ink base, and then the shimmer part is going to reflect light back. And so what's difficult about this one is that it's subtle. That shimmer is a little bit more subtle. To me, what I feel like better illustrates a brown kind of earth tone ink is copper. I think this celestial copper is much more to my taste when it comes to a shimmer, because the shimmer is loud and proud in this particular swatch color. Sorry, I got like a little fiber. I got little fibers on my stamp. Yeah. You'll see that immediately, and I don't know why, but this is just like a juicier ink pad, and perhaps maybe that's the problem, is that this is just a nicer ink, or more inked up than the other one. But I think it's a nicer ink swatch because the shimmer just is in your face. Well, see, that thing is happening again where it wants to stick to the stamp and not go down onto the paper because I'm pressing down too hard. So let me try this again. Oh, yeah, there it goes. So that was a lighter touch, and so you could see more of that shimmer got down there. Really nice. Where I really like Terra Cotta is actually using it with an ink brayer or some sort of inker that like a brush or something, that this is the ink blusher, actually picking it up and pushing it into the paper. Okay, sorry, somebody called me and it kicked me off the video. Okay, so the last swatch in all of these is the Fireworks in Rich Cocoa. And so the Fireworks, you need to give it a good shake. And this is another liquid ink. It's similar to the walnut ink. I'm going to take the lid off. Oh, my video got all... Okay. And essentially with Fireworks, you want to keep it moving, and so the mica is kind of collecting in the bottom. I'm just going to put the paintbrush right down into the bottom of that and stir it up. You have to constantly shake Fireworks to agitate the mica because it's going to settle to the bottom of that pretty much right away, and that's for every swatch color of Fireworks. So you have to keep that ink moving in order to get the benefit of that shimmer. Sorry guys, I feel like my video went all blurry. I'm trying to understand why. I hope that's not the, are you guys seeing me okay? Okay, so I'm just going to stay focused on what I'm going to talk about. That way I can, you know, just go right along with what I planned. Clean my stamp off. So essentially this is the stamping demo that I wanted to do in the natural inks. And to keep talking about the shimmer inks here at the end, the dark brown shimmer, it's very subtle. The celestial copper is in your face shimmer. And the last one I think is really interesting, and this is what I wanted to say about Fireworks, is that the Fireworks brand, it's called Rich Cocoa in line with the Memento Rich Cocoa. Fireworks was developed as the liquid shimmery version of Memento. And so when you add mica or shimmer to an ink, it's going to flip the color a little bit, because what's happening is that color base and the reflection of the shimmer is messing with your eye. And so essentially this last swatch, the Rich Cocoa, is the same ink formulation as the top Memento one. But as you can see, it's very different looking. This is fully dry, and as it dries and continues to dry, it's going to become more shimmery and more, you can see that in the camera, it's going to become more shimmery and lighter, right? Because that mica is going to settle and lock in place. And so what's happening here is, here I am right here, this is still wet, so it looks like it does right now, but it's going to get brighter when it dries and flatten back out. Right now it's kind of wrinkling the paper, but it's going to essentially, it's going to dry and look like that. And I really love this last swatch. I think it's gorgeous. So I'm a big fan of the Fireworks Rich Cocoa. But I would say don't be deceived by the label. The label looks like dark brown. It's not going to turn out that way. So that's the talking point on that. So we talked about a free download, and this is available on the Imagine Crafts website. I'm going to show you how to put this together using some of these inks that I swatched out today. And if you stay with me here, this is using the copper and some of the Toffee Crunch, and one thing I didn't talk about, which is the Fabrico marker. And I'm going to be using that to show you how to put together this little table decor. Okay. So I'm just going to put this aside. Okay, so if you go onto the Imagine Crafts website, you'll look in the description below. After this video, I will link it below. And essentially, I put together a 3-page free download PDF, and it looks like this. These are the 3 pages. And it is basically a Thanksgiving set. You have all these sentiments here for Thanksgiving. Here are little corns, acorns, leaves, a turkey, and the wreaths. And essentially what you would want to do is basically just take some of these elements, and I'm going to take a leaf, an acorn, and a happy Thanksgiving, and one of these little cards here. You want to cut this card out and use the fold lines as a guide, and this will create a little tripod. not like a super accurate crafter. I don't do everything like perfect. And so when I, sorry, I'm trying to get my video to, I hope that this is not looking as blurry as it, I have like a computer screen. Okay, that looks awesome. So I am back in focus, that's good. I have a computer screen here to help me look at what I'm doing while I'm talking to you guys, because my phone is like, you know, kind of weird looking, like I can't really see what I'm doing. And so I was worried that I was looking really blurry. So anyway, the tripod, you just want to use the fold lines here as a guide, and you don't want these to show on the outside, so you want to fold it again and go on the inside here. And I'm just gonna create that. Before I glue it all together, I want to ink it up and give it some color. So I'm gonna come over this with Toffee Crunch and Momento. This is actually a really great base color for projects, as you can see. It can give any paper color a kind of craft color look. And I'm not gonna be super precise, I just kind of want to lay some color down randomly. And now a symbol. So I'm just using a little piece of Terra tape. You can use a liquid glue here, but just for time's sakes, I don't want to wait for a liquid glue to dry. I'm just going to use double-sided tape on all of this. So the middle panel is what is meant to show, and just kind of lay like that. I'm going to come down again on these, since this is an acorn, I'm going to go with acorn and just be a little literal here. I'm going to try to snazz this up a little bit though, and maybe make the acorn shimmery. So I want to kind of lightly apply. Oh, it's kind of tough. You can't really lightly apply Versafine. It's just such a solid ink that it's just going to go down into that paper. So I'm just going to do this acorn with acorn in Versafine Clear. It's pretty dark, but to snazz it up a little bit, I want to go over it with copper. This was, I used this in the last video, just used it. And oh, I'm not sure about that. I don't know. I don't know if I like that actually. But I'm a kind of crafter where if I make a mistake, I just keep going and see how I'm going to fix it. And maybe this is why these markers come in handy. So I kind of lost some of the definition of the print there, so I'm just going to come back over it with Fabrico and pull, kind of go over it like that and give it some dimension. That might be a little too dark. I might start over on this one. So I'm gonna go over the Thanksgiving sentiment, Happy Thanksgiving, lightly with Toffee Crunch, because I just want to lightly color it. I want that to be readable, and I just want to give it some color so it doesn't look so bright white. And I'm gonna go over this base. I'm going to do Toffee Crunch again and go over the base of this leaf and do heavier on this. And The reason why I wanted to use a Fabrico marker in this is to just detail on top of this print and just go along the edges. Now, with all this swatching that I've done and all these inks that I've used today, you could do anything. I'm just quickly demoing some things that I would do. I would actually think that if you had more time, I'm just trying to do this really fast, but if you had more time, maybe going through with the walnut ink on this with the brush might be better, but since these are elements kind of cut like this, it might make it curl. So the benefit of using a stamping ink on little elements like this is that it won't curl the paper. So maybe if you're using the walnut ink, you might like spray it on this or do like an ink flick with the brush onto that. But let's go ahead and assemble this guy and see, just kind of see how it's going. I have this one, but I neglected to cut out this wreath here, and I don't want to do that right now. So okay, so just quick assembly on this. And if you're doing multiples of these for a Thanksgiving table, then you know, you can change up each design. You can make each design uniform. So if you're making table decor, you could do one style in this style and then do another one, just totally different. Make everyone look unique. The copper on this acorn is still wet, and I'm just going to take that as an advantage right now and kind of lift some of that ink back off. I think that might help me like it more, because I think I kind of lost some of the outline of that acorn when I went over it heavy with the copper. But I like the subtle shimmer on it now, so that's nice. Okay. This is always like the fun part about putting something together. So I really like covering the corners here. I'm just going to go high up on that corner and give that a little more touch of shimmer there. I probably keep going on this, but just for time's sake and wrapping up this video, I want to just roll with it right now. Okay, so just attaching that with some double-sided foam tape, and voila! Nice, quick, and easy Thanksgiving craft. Here are some more that I've done. I spent more time on this one. I went in with Toffee Crunch, detailed it with the Fabrico marker, did some inking on this leaf, went in with the fireworks in rich cocoa. And here's another one I've done. This is the celestial copper. You can see that shimmer on the leaves there. The acorn in the middle, and then give thanks. And there you go. Really nice, fun stuff. I'm gonna bring you guys back up and say goodbye. Okay, So thank you so much for joining me on this YouTube live, not Facebook live. I hope you enjoyed my demo of natural brown inks. Just look at them one last time. So we have the Memento set that's getting more dry and looking really nice. I think kind of looking like it has more depth to it. Some of the Versacolor inks, they kind of stayed true to color there from the moment I stamped them to now. Have Stazon, which is a lot of varieties of Stazon. That nice gingerbread and Versamagic, nice pigment ink, chalk ink. Then a nice spread of Versafine Original and Versafine Clair. So if you're wanting the differences between the Versafine Original and the Versafine Clair, the differences are ink variety. Nice liquid ink. We have this nice liquid ink of the walnut inks, hashtag walnut ink on Instagram, and you'll see a bunch of nice stuff. And then last but not least, certainly the Shimmer Inks and the brown. So there you go. Nice spread of brown inks in the Sukaneko brand. So thank you so much for joining me on YouTube, and if you like this video, certainly give it a thumbs up, and please comment below if you would like me to do another swatching video, any kind of topic you prefer, and I can work on that. So okay, thank you everyone. Bye.